You have any messages for Donald Trump today?
The prosecution's key witness takes the stand in Donald Trump's so-called hush money trial.
Is there anything he could say that could put you in jeopardy?
Michael Cohen ties his old boss directly to hush money payments to Stormy Daniels. Why he says the former president was afraid the adult film star's story would be a disaster for his 2016 campaign.
We paid a lawyer, a legal expense. It's marked down in the book.
The CBS Evening News starts now. Good evening, I'm Nora O'Donnell, and thank you for being with us after a pivotal day in the criminal trial of Donald Trump. The former president coming face to face with his one-time personal attorney, Michael Cohen, who gave 6 hours of detailed testimony under oath, painting a behind-the-scenes picture of what was happening in the final weeks of the 2016 campaign. The former fixer and inside man detailed how Trump personally approved the so-called hush money payouts to hide stories that he believed would hurt him with female voters in his 2016 run for the White House. It was the Stormy Daniels payment and Trump's reimbursement to Cohen, disguised as legal expenses, that is at the heart of this criminal case. Trump is charged with 34 felony counts of falsifying business records to conceal that information from voters. And reporters in the room say Trump spent much of the day in court with his eyes closed. CBS's Robert Costa was there for today's riveting testimony and reports tonight on a secret recording between Cohen and Trump that the jury heard just today.
Michael, what do you have to say to Donald Trump?
Michael Cohen left early this morning for what would be a blockbuster day in court, where he testified that when Stormy Daniels started shopping her story, Donald Trump told him, just take care of it. Cohen set the scene. The 2016 election was just weeks away, and according to Cohen's testimony, Trump said it's a total disaster. Women are going to hate me.
I have no idea what they're even doing.
As Trump continued to deny all the allegations, Cohen detailed how he made the $130,000 payment to Daniels to keep her quiet, which he described in 2019.
He asked me to pay off an adult film star with whom he had an affair and to lie about it to his wife, which I did.
Before finalizing the $130,000 payment to Daniels, Cohen said he called Trump to tell him because everything required Mr. Trump's sign-off. On top of that, I wanted the money back.
Cohen so far has been effective for the prosecution. He is the first witness who's really placed Donald Trump directly in these discussions about the payoff to Stormy Daniels.
Cohen pointed to a Trump Tower meeting where he and former Chief Financial Officer Alan Weisselberg showed Trump this document with Cohen's name at the top and $130,000 scribbled at the bottom. It was there, Cohen testified, that Trump approved the plan to pay him in monthly installments. Jurors also heard Trump and Cohen allegedly talking together in 2016 about a separate hush money payment made to former Playboy playmate Karen McDougal, a recording Cohen made without telling Trump.
And I spoke to Alan about it when it comes time for the financing, which will be...
Listen, what financing?
We'll have to pay you. So.
One major challenge for prosecutors is getting the jury to believe Michael Cohen. He's a convicted felon who spent time in prison and admitted lying to Congress.
I think the only way they can do that is really by allowing Cohen to be himself on the stand and testify and come across as a person who's credible, who may have lied in the past, but is telling the truth now.
Trump and Cohen barely looked at each other all day, but there was one moment where Cohen was asked to single out the defendant, and he did just that. Cohen will be back in the courtroom tomorrow. Nora.
Robert Costa, thank you so much. Now, breaking news from the scene of that deadly bridge collapse in Baltimore. In a risky operation, engineers just hours ago set off controlled explosions in the wreckage of the Francis Scott Key Bridge to help try and free the massive cargo ship that crashed into it nearly 7 weeks ago. CBS's Nicole Skanga is there.
Explosive precision cuts at the site of the Key Bridge collapse. Workers demolishing steel beams to remove a colossal steel truss atop the container ship Dolly, where 21 crew members remain below deck during this operation.
It is going to allow for the pressure from those cuts to literally separate the metal and cut through the steel.
Once clear, crews will work to refloat the container ship Dolly in hopes of moving the ship out of the channel in just 2 days. The massive container ship, spanning 985 feet and weighing 116,000 tons. And moving it is one of the last remaining barriers to clearing the channel.
Key bridge is down.
This is the moment the first police marine unit arrived on scene at the deadly bridge collapse 7 weeks ago.
At least several vehicles in the water.
Authorities have recovered all 6 bodies of the construction workers who died during the Key Bridge collapse. Maryland has now offered $22 million in assistance to impacted small businesses, plus $2.8 million in cash to port workers.
We're talking about a port that has economic output of $191 million daily.
Amid calls for accountability as investigators dive into the most expensive maritime tragedy in U.S. history.
We know that those who need to be held responsible for this tragedy will be held responsible.
Findings from a preliminary investigation by the NTSB are expected to be released tomorrow. Meanwhile, Maryland transportation officials say that the new bridge is expected to cost as much as $2 billion. Nora?
Nicole Skanga, thank you so much. Tonight, the White House is urging Israel to focus on a clear endgame for its war with Hamas, with a political plan for the future of the Palestinian people. This comes as Israel finds itself fighting Hamas in areas it once thought had been cleared of militants. And as CBS's Ramy Inocencio reports, the struggle for food and shelter in Gaza is getting worse.
Israeli strikes echoed across northern Gaza. Like in the first weeks of this war, more wounded and more dead, with thousands running out of refugee camps as Israel's military rolled in, it says, to stop Hamas from regrouping. A tank is behind the school, yelled this mother. We don't know where to go. On Gaza's southern end, parts of Rafah city sit shattered and abandoned as Israel advances there. Nearly 360,000 people have fled in the past week, says the UN, as Israel ramped up its attacks. The already displaced, again displaced, to the sands of Al-Mawasi and further north. I need to stay strong because of my daughter, said Jamila Abu Jabara. She named her 6 other sons and daughters killed in an Israeli strike 7 months ago today. I think I'm dreaming, and I'll wake up and find my children around me. Dima, now an only child, said, I just want this war to end. But hostility runs deep and wide. Today, Israeli settlers attacked an aid convoy headed to Gaza, ransacking the trucks and throwing their contents onto the street. As the country marked its first Memorial Day since October 7th for fallen soldiers and victims of terror, the U.S. warned Israel it needs a plan to replace Hamas as a governing body in Gaza.
Then you're going to have a vacuum, and a vacuum that's likely to be filled by chaos, by anarchy, and ultimately by Hamas again.
And now Gaza's Hamas-run health ministry is appealing for international pressure to let in desperately needed aid, medical supplies, and fuel, Nora. The Strip's crucial southern border crossing in Rafah remains closed.
Ramy Inocencio, thank you for being there. Now to the intensifying war in Ukraine. Russian forces are carrying out a major assault in and around Ukraine's second largest city, Kharkiv, capturing more than a half dozen towns and villages over the weekend. Russia has also been pounding Ukraine's power grid while Ukraine's desperately outgunned troops wait for more military aid to arrive from the U.S. and Western allies. Tonight, New York City is on edge following a string of random assaults, including 2 high-profile incidents in just the last week. A tourist in Times Square was stabbed over the weekend, and a celebrity was punched in the face by a stranger just a few days earlier. CBS's Nikki Batiste reports on what's behind this rise in frightening attacks.
Surveillance video shows this terrifying moment on Saturday in Times Square. A man jumping up from a walker, pulling out a knife and lunging at 2 women walking by, stabbing one of them in the chest. A few minutes later, police handcuffed the suspect. It's the latest in a series of random assaults across New York City. About a dozen people, mostly women and 1 9-year-old, have reported incidents to police. Some shared stories online, saying they were randomly punched in the face while walking down the street.
It was like a zombie walking and just punch me and just keep walking. out of nowhere.
Actor Steve Buscemi had a swollen, bloody eye after he was allegedly hit by this man last week. His publicist said in a statement that The Sopranos and Boardwalk Empire star was another victim of a random act of violence in the city.
I think it's a combination of factors, and one of it is unaddressed mental illness.
Overall, murders, burglaries, and shootings in New York City are down, but there have been about 1,000 more misdemeanor assaults like punching incidents this year compared to last, about a 7% jump.
Is it the randomness of these incidents that causes the alarm?
It is. I'm just minding my business. I'm not engaging with anybody. I'm not making eye contact. I'm not being hostile, and yet I get assaulted, and that's what makes people afraid.
The NYPD believes there are multiple people behind these punching attacks, and they don't all appear to be connected. So far, there have been at least 4 arrests. We reached out to the NYPD to ask if they're stepping up street patrols, but we haven't heard back. Nora?
Nikki Batiste, thanks very much. More than 100 active wildfires are burning in Canada, sending thick smoke across the border south into the United States. Minnesota officials issued the state's first air quality alert of the year, with parts of Wisconsin and Iowa also facing air quality issues. Canada had its worst wildfire season on record last year, and extreme drought conditions could make this year even worse. Tonight, severe weather is once again taking aim at parts of the country. This tornado striking a short time ago in southern Missouri, while heavy rains flooded roads across Texas, dropping hail the size of golf balls. Look at that on homes near Austin. More than 10 million Americans are under flood alerts from Texas to Florida, with more rain in the forecast. Some areas could receive up to a foot by the end of the week. Tens of millions of Americans are gearing up for the upcoming Memorial Day weekend. AAA says 43.8 million people are expected to travel 50 miles or more this year, making it the busiest in nearly 20 years. Here's CBS's Chris Van Cleve.
Hoping to beat the potentially record-breaking summer travel rush, Joy Noel Bolonig booked her vacation months ago.
I definitely am excited for this travel season. I do plan on traveling on airplanes. I do plan on taking my car, just like seeing where this summer season takes me.
And she will not be alone. AAA is expecting about a 5% bump in airline travel this Memorial Day weekend. United Airlines is planning for its busiest ever, flying over 500,000 people a day. But most will drive. AAA predicting a record 38.4 million will hit the road, up 4% from last year.
It goes back to that bucket list, YOLO, you only live once mentality. A lot of people are now going, you know what, let's not take those trips we always take with our families. Let's get a little bit more adventurous.
One of the fastest growing travel segments post-pandemic is cruising. The industry is expecting nearly 35 million passengers this year, a new high. For the thousands on board Carnival Firenze for its sold-out inaugural sailing, vacation season started early.
What do you like best about cruising?
Oh, that you get to go to multiple destinations, unpack your suitcase once, you got food, entertainment, even the casino if you're into that.
Now, when it comes to holiday traffic, AAA expects the roads to be busiest next Thursday and Friday between noon and 7 p.m. United Airlines thinks the airports will be busiest on Thursday. Top domestic travel destinations include Orlando, the Florida beaches, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, and here in Denver, Nora.
Chris Van Cleve with good information. Thank you so much. A church congregation pulls together to stop a gunman while dozens of kids await their first Holy Communion. The heroic story next. Quick-thinking churchgoers joined forces to stop a gunman in Louisiana this weekend. CBS's Omar Villafranca has the dramatic video.
Chaos during communion, caught on a live stream. It happened Saturday at St. Mary Magdalene Church during a first communion ceremony for 60 children, all second graders, in Abbeville, Louisiana. Police say a 16-year-old boy carrying a gun opened the back door of the packed church, but was immediately confronted and escorted away from the church by parishioners. The priest tries to calm everyone by asking them to recite a prayer, while altar servers can be seen running for cover and clergy ducking behind the altar. No one was hurt. The 16-year-old was arrested and taken for a mental evaluation. Saturday's incident comes a week after a man attempted to shoot a Pennsylvania pastor mid-service. Video captures the moment his gun jams, and the deacon dives over a pew and tackles him.
I just tried to get out of the way of him shooting because he pointed it right at me, and I just see it. I'm looking right down the barrel of a gun.
Bernard Polite said he heard voices. He is now under arrest, charged with murdering his cousin earlier that day. Omar Villafranca, CBS News, Dallas.
What's supposed to be a new simplified system for federal college loans is upended by glitches. What students and parents need to know. That's next. Nearly 2 weeks after what is traditionally College Decision Day, many students are still unable to commit to a school. That's because of computer glitches plaguing the Education Department's newly overhauled financial aid system. CBS's Meg Oliver has an important update.
With high school graduation just weeks away, anxiety was mounting for senior JoJo Henderson.
It's where you belong.
The 18-year-old from Pittsburgh, Texas, couldn't commit to college without knowing his financial aid.
I'm frustrated because it's just like you do everything that you're supposed to do, and then you have to wait on the government to catch up.
Henderson filled out the free application for federal student aid, known as FAFSA, almost 5 months ago. He finally received his financial information last week after some college decision deadlines. Typically, the Department of Education releases the forms on October 1st, then sends the students' data to colleges within 1 to 3 days of submission to calculate aid. This year, the application forms came out 3 months late. It's estimated more than a quarter of colleges have still not sent aid packages.
Did you ever think of giving up, maybe not going to college?
Yeah, many times actually.
Really?
I was just so tired of waiting.
New Jersey high school senior Jalen James finally received her aid package close to the decision deadline.
My biggest advice is to not give up.
Sarah Urquidez oversees college counseling for thousands of public school students in the Dallas area.
Ask for extensions, ask if deposits for housing are refundable, ask for anything they possibly can to help make a decision, but don't opt out at this point in the process.
A FAFSA fiasco that's still not finished. Meg Oliver, CBS News, Wayne, New Jersey.
Heart of America is next with a symphony conductor who's changing the tempo for women everywhere.
This portion of the CBS Evening News is sponsored by Verizon, the network you want for your phone and home.
Finally, tonight's Heart of America as we celebrate Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. CBS's Nancy Chen has the story of an inspiring maestro who's breaking barriers while hitting all the right notes.
New York's Metropolitan Opera sets the tone as one of the world's most prestigious stages, and conductor Xian Zhang is helping to shape its sound. The groundbreaking maestro born in China made her guest debut earlier this year, one of the first Asian American women to lead from its podium.
Do you hope to inspire other musicians?
Absolutely. In the U.S., only about 1 in 4 music directors are people of color, and even fewer are women.
Do you think it was harder as a woman, as a person of color?
The double standard? Oh, absolutely. But to be within this group, one also has to learn how to grow from it and give yourself the space to make mistakes. It's okay.
Experience Zhang passes on while also leading the New Jersey Symphony in her 8th season as its first female music director. And as she blazes a new path, Zhang hopes the music itself strikes the highest note of all. Nancy Chen, CBS News, New York.
Conductor Xian Zhang, tonight's Heart of America. And a reminder, we're going to have a rare and wide-ranging interview with Pope Francis on this Sunday, 60 Minutes, and then a primetime special next Monday, May 20th, right here on CBS. We hope you'll join us. That's tonight's CBS Evening News. I'm Norah O'Donnell. Good night.